Hello, how are we? Welcome to Warriors of Attraction. Once again, we're back. And I think this is the last one of this month. I think it is. I'm probably wrong. Because I know we got next week. But anyway, I can't keep up with dates. But we're going to be talking about osteoporosis with Igor. So first, I'm going to bring on my wonderful co-host. Welcome back, Andrea Avons.
Hey everyone.
LCLs. How are you?
I'm great. Glad to be back. I've been busy. I've been seeing a lot of great things happening, in our organization and our it's just been, I can't complain. It's not going to do any good anyway.
What does complaining do?
It don't do nothing. Maybe I could get it out.
It just backfires on you.
Yeah, that's true.
Exactly. So please share this all. I've already said I know absolutely nothing about osteoporosis. Nothing.
We're gonna learn today.
Other than apparently it affects your bones or something like that. I don't know.
I don't know. We're gonna find out.
I don't know. I'm probably wrong. But let's just bring him on. Please share this all. Let's do this.
Let's do it. Hey.
Welcome, Igor.
Hi, guys.
How are you?
Good, thanks. And you?
Besides a bit of an itchy hand, which I think I'm getting a heat rash because we're practically in summer here. Yeah, I'm all right.
Fantastic. And you, Andrea?
I'm doing great. Thanks for asking, Igor. And I'm so happy to have you here today. Welcome. Thanks for coming.
My pleasure. I'm very excited to be here and talk about this topic. Very important one.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm going to need to moisturize my hands at some point. But anyway, I'm always moisturizing. But anyway, what's that?
Is there nothing wrong with keeping your hands moisturized?
Well, it's good for your skin anyway. Which moisturizer could actually be linked to this topic? I don't know. I'm probably wrong.
I don't think it is.
What's that?
Probably important to moisturize your hands, but I'm not sure how related it is to osteoporosis.
I have not got a clue. But before we dive into it, give a little bit of an insight in who you are, a little bit of background, so obviously Andrea can get to know you a little bit and the viewers.
Sure. So my name is Igor. I'm the author of 10 books on exercise and nutrition, including this one, Osteoporosis Reversal Secrets. And the way I got to writing this book is because I'm a personal trainer. I run a personal training company, both in person here in Toronto, as well as virtually all over the world. And we happen to get a lot of clients who have osteoporosis, and it's not really taught what to do with clients who have osteoporosis in personal training school. In other words, when I did my degree in kinesiology, they never taught that. In my certification, they never taught that. But I really wanted to do a great job with my clients. I didn't just want to strengthen their muscles. I wanted to strengthen their bones. I wanted their doctors to be impressed, etc. So I started to look at the medical literature in terms of what works from the things that are available to me. And as a personal trainer, what I'm allowed to use is exercise, nutrition, supplements. There's a lot of stuff I'm not allowed to do. I'm not allowed to talk about medications. I'm not allowed to talk about acupuncture. There's a lot of stuff I can't do. But exercise, nutrition, supplementation, those are three very powerful things that are certainly within my arsenal. And so I started to research of what can I do with a person that uses those three tools. And that person, that first client who had with osteoporosis, she did extremely well. Her bone density improved by 2, which is a lot. That's a T-score. And then I started to do it with other clients who had osteoporosis. Then I started to teach it to my employees who had clients with osteoporosis. Once we had a few dozen success stories under our belt, I decided to write the book.
Wonderful. Now I have to ask you. You talk fast, okay? So
I'll slow down. Very exciting for me.
you ran through that, okay? So those three things that you're mentioning, could you just slow it down and tell us what they are again?
Yes, the three things that are within my arsenal are exercise, nutrition, and supplements.
What was that last one?
Supplements.
Supplements.
Supplements. Okay.
Wow,
Thank you.
Andrea. Wow.
Well, I want to make sure I get this stuff because it's important.
You're writing this down. She's always got a pad and pen with her. Always.
Always. Yes. Yes, I have to write it down. Yes. I mean, because I take it seriously. We all should.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. So osteoporosis, like, you're clearly a big advocate in raising the awareness for it, but what is it and how does it actually impact you in general?
Sure. So what it is, I'm going to give a very simple definition. It's
Mhm.
weak bones. That's what it is.
Weak bones.
And the comparison I make is this. There's this chocolate bar called Aero. A-E-R-O.
Arrow, yeah.
Aero, yeah. So healthy bones are like Aero. Osteoporotic bones are like Swiss cheese. So that's the analogy. So that's what osteoporosis is in a very simple term, weak bones. And as you can imagine, if bones are weak, the risk of fracture is pretty high. And how does it impact a person? Well, first of all, if they have it, they often don't know they have it. They usually find out one of two ways. Either one, it's usually a woman over 50 and her doctor says, because of your age, let's get a bone density scan. And they do, and they find out that way. The other way a person might find out is they bump into something without a lot of force and they get a fracture. And they're like, that wasn't even painful. I mean, the bump wasn't even forceful. Why did I fracture myself? And then they get a bone density scan and realize, oh, I have osteoporosis. So not everybody has it, but the statistic that I read is about 30% of women over 50 worldwide have it. It's more prevalent in Asia, East Asia especially, and less prevalent amongst African American women. So congrats, Andrea. And so obviously you can imagine how does it impact a person if somebody has it and they know it and they've never fractured anything before. They're going to be hyper vigilant, and a lot of their daily life will be organized around not fracturing a bone. Usually that's a hip or a spine or a segment of the spine, etc. Now, if they've already had a fracture, they always have a constant fear of fracturing something again. And so you can imagine if somebody was active before, their choices of what to do if they have osteoporosis are now limited. If they liked playing tennis, they don't want to, fall down and break something, because again, what to somebody else might cause a bruise, to somebody with osteoporosis will cause a break or a fracture. If they enjoy skiing, well, they're not going to be skiing anymore. They're going to think twice before skiing, because if you fall on your butt, again, if you didn't have osteoporosis, it's just going to be a sore butt. If you have osteoporosis, that's a hip or a spinal fracture, or possibly. Yeah, and once somebody breaks something, the news are grim. Once somebody breaks a hip or a segment of the spine via impact, then unfortunately death is not far behind.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I'm just looking now on the American Bone Health websites that just in America alone, 1 in 4 men over the age of 50 will have an osteoporosis-related fracture, and this is greater than the likelihood of developing prostate cancer.
Yeah, correct.
Wow.
Generally speaking, it's not fatal, but it's definitely painful. And usually, although it's not fatal, people, if they get a fracture, they'll often die of the complications of the fracture. So, for example, once you fracture something, you're less mobile. You're less mobile. Your blood sugar starts to go up. Your blood pressure starts to go up. So with osteoporosis, you don't die from osteoporosis. Usually, you die with osteoporosis because you can't move around as much. Then you get the likelihood of heart disease is higher.
Absolutely. Yeah, obviously it also says here osteoporosis is often thought, and obviously this for you as well, Andrea, because we was talking about menopause just not long ago, thought of as a woman's disease because it is particularly common after menopause.
Yes.
But in reality, osteoporosis also affects men. Just goes like obviously fractures, and it can be associated with higher rates of disability and death in men than in women.
Wow.
Yeah, exactly. Osteoporosis is way more common, way more prevalent in women. But when men get it, there's way fewer men who get it than women. But when they get it, it is more severe because they tend to get it at a much older age.
Wow.
You know, and you mentioned the bone density test. I just had that done about 3 months ago, and I don't have it then.
Congratulations. If you don't know you have it, you probably don't have it, and you're clear.
That's good to know. See, I wouldn't have knew that. I would have been like, do I, how do I know? You said bone density test. Boom, that cleared me right there.
Yeah, if you're clear, you're going to get tested for once every 5 years. If you did have it, you get tested either every year or every 2 years.
Okay.
So what age do you recommend people should go for this test?
Generally speaking, for women, it's about 50. For men, it's about 70. Now, I will say,
I'm far off that then.
you're good. I will say this though. That's if it's an otherwise healthy person who has no reason to think that they have osteoporosis. There are certain conditions where I would say get it tested younger than that. For example, if a woman has had a hysterectomy, then I'd say get it done sooner. If she entered menopause via surgery, as like by getting her ovaries removed, or by getting her uterus removed, then get it sooner. Get it before the age of 50. If it's either a man or a woman who is on a class of medications called protein pump inhibitors, basically medications for acid reflux, get it done sooner than that, especially if you've been taking them for a long time. If somebody has a history of anorexia or eating disorders, or if somebody is a very long duration endurance athlete, like if they're doing marathons and ultra marathons, and it's not a one-time thing, it's like that's their hobby, then get tested sooner than that. But yeah, for otherwise healthy people who don't meet those criteria, over 50 for women, over 70 for men.
I tell you, I meet a lot of the criteria, but just knowing I had the test done and I'm cleared, that makes it feel so much better. Now, I want to say, our doctors here in Lincoln, Nebraska, I'm over 50. So there, that's something that's in our women's health check. You know what I'm saying? When we come to our yearly check to our doctor, the doctor is going to send for those certain tests to be done. You know what I'm saying? Like mammograms and things like that, that we should be, staying on top of. So, Hey.
And rightfully so. But yeah, congratulations on getting the all clear.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Go get y'all's tests done. If y'all over 50, women, men over 70, run and get your bone density test done so you can be cleared.
Yeah, exactly. Or if you're not clear, at least you can do something about it as early as possible.
That's true.
Have you ever lived with osteoporosis, Igor?
No. I'm a 35-year-old male. I'm active. I eat a lot of protein. No, definitely not. This is more of a professional interest than personal interest.
Okay, fair enough. So what?
Eating a lot of protein, that's important too in this.
Protein is actually the single most important nutrient. Contrary to popular belief, it's not calcium and it's not vitamin D. Protein is number one.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'll say I hate the word advice because you tell people what to do with that. So what input and recommendations would you say to someone that they've just been diagnosed with osteoporosis? What would you say to them? Because obviously the trauma will be going through their heads and the anxiety, won't it?
Yeah. The number one piece of advice I would give is to ignore conventional wisdom. conventional wisdom is very, very, very bad advice. What are the 3 pieces of a conventional wisdom you get as soon as you're diagnosed with osteoporosis? 1, take calcium. 2, go for a walk. And 3, don't fall. Let's break these down one by one. The whole calcium thing, that is a giant myth that's perpetuated for a long time and still being perpetuated. Why? How did that myth arise? Well, when we were all kids, we were watching TV, we were watching commercials that say, drink milk for strong bones and teeth. What is it in milk that makes strong bones and teeth? Well, calcium, they say. And everyone who has osteoporosis, she has this number ingrained in her head, 1,200 milligrams of calcium per day. Every woman with osteoporosis knows this, is deep in her mind. But where did that number come from? That is what's called the RDA. In the US, that's the recommended dietary allowance for calcium. And again, where did that number come from? During World War II, in the 1940s, the US government and then other governments around the world followed, and they looked at the nutritional intake of healthy people, of apparently healthy people. And what they saw is that healthy people at the time in the 1940s consumed 1,200 milligrams of calcium per day. Now it sounds sensible, but here's the problem. They didn't compare the calcium intake of healthy people to the calcium intake of unhealthy people, of osteoporotic people. What if healthy people eat 1,200 per day and osteoporotic people eat 1,200 per day? Well, then that's not the difference between the two. Then it's other factors, right? And so why doesn't calcium improve bone strength? And even the government actually says it does not improve bone strength. And despite that, doctors are still recommending calcium for bone strength against government recommendations. And so why doesn't it improve bone strength? Well, 2 reasons. What is the test for bones? Well, Andrea, as you mentioned earlier, it's bone density. And the full name for that test is bone mineral density. In other words, the bone density test measures the mineral content of bone. That's problem number 1. Bones are about 40% minerals and 60% not minerals, but it's not able to test the 60% that's not minerals. That's problem number 1 with that test. Problem number 2 is that it's bone mineral density, not bone calcium density. Even though the mineral content of bone is not 100% calcium, bones have 11 different minerals, and calcium is only one of those 11 minerals. For example, if you're baking a cake for 5 people, and then last minute, each of those 5 people tells you that they're bringing an extra guest, do you expect to double the flour and have double the cake, or do you double every ingredient? Of course, you double every ingredient. And that's why calcium first of all, it's questionable whether it improves bone density. What's not questionable is that it does not reduce fracture risk. Okay. What's the purpose of having a good bone density test or a good bone density score? It's not just to look good on a test. The real measurement that matters is fracture risk, not bone density. Bone density is just a proxy for fracture risk. And so what if you have a good bone density, but also a high fracture risk? Well, that wouldn't be good. You want to have a good bone density and a low fracture risk. And what calcium does is, it is even controversial whether it does this. Calcium might improve bone density and it might not. But what it doesn't do, and that's fairly conclusive, is it does not reduce fracture risk. So that's why we should ignore that one conventional piece of advice: take calcium. Whether you take calcium or you don't take calcium makes no difference. Conventional piece of advice number 2 is go for a walk. Why? Don't get me wrong. Walking is a fantastic activity. I can't even call it exercise per se, but it's a fantastic activity. It's beneficial to a lot of things: your immune system, your mental health, etc. One thing that it doesn't do anything for at all whatsoever is your bones. Walking, in fact, weakens the bones. It just weakens them slower than not walking. But would you rather just slow down how fast you decline, or would you rather either stop the decline or incline? Wouldn't it be better to actually reverse it as opposed to just slow down the loss and you still continue to lose? That wouldn't be very good, would it? And so walking, again, do it for reasons other than your bones, but don't do it for your bones. It's conclusive that the 2 best forms of exercise for bones are, in no particular order, strength training and jump training. Those are your 2 most effective ones. but it's not strength training in the same way as you would go to the gym for weight loss or for toning. There's a very specific way to strength train for bones. So that is the second piece of conventional wisdom that we should ignore. And the third piece of conventional wisdom that we shouldn't ignore exactly, but it's pretty useless advice, is don't fall. Okay. Now, I don't know about you, but to me, the word fall does not imply that you're doing it deliberately. If it was something you did deliberately, it would be called squatting, it would be called coming down, but it's not called falling. Falling is not a planned activity. It's not like somebody is sitting there with their schedule and saying, you know what, Tuesday at 10 o'clock, that's a great time for a fall. I think I'll schedule that in. It doesn't actually happen that way.
It's unpredictable, isn't it? It's unpredictable.
Yeah. If somebody could predict a fall, they wouldn't fall. And so much better advice would be, here is what you can do to your environment to decrease the risk of falling. In other words, if you're in a cold part of the world, why don't you salt your driveway or salt the stairs? If you're, a lot of people get up to go to the washroom during the night. So why don't you clear the pathway from your bed to the washroom as you're moving? So those are actual practical pieces of advice. So part of don't fall should really be about the environment. But even more importantly, it should be about, here are exercises to improve your balance. That is a much better piece of advice than don't fall. So again, the three conventional pieces of advice people get for osteoporosis are take calcium, go for a walk, and don't fall. And these are the many reasons why you should ignore conventional wisdom, because it doesn't work, or in some cases makes things worse.
Right.
Wow.
You know, the don't fall part can be stigmatizing, you know, and it's a stigma of the idea that older people are more prone to fall.
Yeah, absolutely. Which fair enough, they are. What is balance really? Balance is the integration of the visual system, the vestibular system, which is what your inner ear is telling you, and what the skin on the soles of your feet is telling you. And fair enough, older people do have worse vision than younger people. So because of that, they do have poor balance. And also they do have less sensitivity of their skin compared to younger people. So they are at a high risk of falling. So it's fair advice, but it's useless advice.
I understand. But, you know, when you were talking about it, that's what came up. I was like, okay, so it's kind of like they're being, you know, they're kind of biased, you know, when it comes to older people, because that's the expectation. But there's a lot of healthy older people out there. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Especially these days, we're living longer, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, that's why those three pieces of advice are somewhere between useless and harmful.
Absolutely. So, and also I've got a couple of comments here from Jackie Shields on LinkedIn, which is brilliant. She's got osteo, and she's just put that she fractured the patella and fractured the back.
Yeah. Sorry to hear that. I mean, that's very common with osteoporosis. But even if you've had a fracture, there's a lot of things you can do to prevent future fractures.
Yeah. Wow.
Sorry to hear that, Jackie. I hope, you know, sending healing vibrations your way.
Yeah, absolutely. Anything else, Andrea? Because I'm learning here.
I'm really learning a lot here, and it's really dispelling a lot of the myths that we think. You know what I mean?
Associated with.
Yeah, exactly. Because if people are following conventional wisdom, all that's going to happen is their bones will continue to get worse.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It shows we've been brought up on a lie.
Well, exactly. They don't really question where those myths came from, but when you look at the research, it's very conclusive. Calcium doesn't work, walking doesn't work, and well, balance training works, but that's not the advice that they're given.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
so that's the problem. Talking about balance.
Yeah, that's the problem with being diagnosed with something, is they diagnose you, but they don't tell you the side effects to it. Not enough of it. And they practically, and that's what these doctors do. Now, I admit there are some good doctors out there, but when they diagnose you, it's like, right, off you go, see you later. Or they prescribe you with some sort of antibiotics or whatever. medication, and then it's like off you go. You're on your own.
Yeah.
They don't provide support or anything like that, and that's what pees me off sometimes.
Yeah, no, totally. And yeah, you're right. There's lots of great doctors out there as well. But what I think should be done, to be fair to the patient who actually has osteoporosis, is the doctor could say, here are the medications that you could take for osteoporosis. And to be fair, here is the expected result, but here are the side effects as well. They can also give the patient the choice. You can also do exercise. Here are the results that you can expect, but here are the side effects as well. Yes, exercise is fantastic. It's beneficial, but there is one major downside to exercise compared to medications: time. Exercise takes time. Taking a pill takes no time. But it does. But again, there's a huge downside to medications: side effects. And so everything has its pros and cons.
Yeah. So I want to take it back to what interests, like when you first come across osteoporosis, what inspired you to say, I want to start a movement on this? I want to advocate for people with osteo.
Well, I feel like people could do a very, very good job reversing osteoporosis by integrating exercise, nutrition, supplementation. Again, I'm not allowed to comment on medications one way or the other. So the education for it, but it's very, very reversible with just those three, the combination of those three: exercise, nutrition, and supplements. And in my experience, it's reversible to a greater extent than medications. I'm not saying somebody should not take medications. I'm just saying that if somebody is already on medications, they could combine it with that. Or if somebody wanted to tell their doctor, listen, give me a 1-year chance, and for 1 year, I want to try it on my own to do as much as I can. And if in a year is my own actions haven't worked, well, let's try medications. But if your doctor is open to trying it for a year, that might be a great action plan to go if you're willing to invest the time.
Yeah, absolutely.
I have a question.
Yeah,
go for it.
When you talk about so when you talk about supplements, I mean, and we just talked about a couple of them, right? Vitamin D and calcium.
Yeah.
Are those some of the supplements that you're talking about?
No. So those are the ones most commonly taken for osteoporosis. But again, I don't recommend calcium at all. In fact, there's a link between calcium and heart disease, calcium and kidney stones, etc. So I can't. Yeah, I've been a personal trainer for 17 years, and I can't remember a single time recommending calcium to anybody for any reason. So no. As for vitamin D is only beneficial when you're deficient in it. To go from deficient to sufficient is highly beneficial, but sufficient to excessive is somewhere between useless and harmful. And so before supplementing with vitamin D, get a test. Only supplement if you're low. If you're not low, don't bother. If your vitamin D levels are already high, definitely don't bother. So vitamin D is not on top of my list, but it is an important one if proven deficiency is present. Okay. So what are the most effective supplements for osteoporosis? Bar none, the single most effective supplement is type 1 collagen. And I have zero interest in anybody, zero financial interest in anybody buying it. Whether you buy it or you don't buy it, I don't make any money. I just talk about ingredients. I don't talk about brands. And so type 1 collagen is the single most important supplement when it comes to osteoporosis. It has the potential to improve bone density by 3 to 4%. Now, if somebody doesn't have osteoporosis, that doesn't mean very much. But for somebody who's listening and has osteoporosis, that is tremendous. That is on par, actually slightly better than the best medications out there. So that's the best one. There are others that are also quite effective for osteoporosis. One of them is vitamin K2. K1 we're very familiar with. That one's used for clotting. K2, however, is for heart health. It takes calcium out of your arteries and puts them into your bones where they should be. Where it should be. And that has the potential to decrease, to improve bone density by 2 to 3%. And by the way, when I say when I talk in bone density, again, that's a proxy marker. What really matters is fracture risk. So, so type 1 collagen can reduce the fracture risk by over 30%. So bone density improvement of 3 to 4% can have a fracture risk reduction of 30% or more. Vitamin K has a fracture risk reduction, not just the bone density improvement, or fracture risk reduction. That's also quite significant, over 20% for sure. So those are two very effective ones. Another common supplement that is highly beneficial to people with osteoporosis, especially women with osteoporosis, is something called soy isoflavones. Okay. And why is it so effective? Well, the reason is that before menopause, the 3 organs that make estrogen are the obvious, which is the ovaries. But besides that, also the adrenal glands and body fat. However, when the ovaries don't make estrogen anymore, that's the reason that osteoporosis risk rises after menopause. Soy isoflavones are like a very weak estrogen. And it's certainly better than not taking estrogen. And of course, a lot of women are concerned about breast cancer and estrogen or something like that. And so I tell them, definitely don't take it after just hearing me speak about it. Speak to your pharmacist, speak to your doctor, speak to your cardiologist or your oncologist about it. But here's my unqualified opinion. If a woman does not have a history or a risk for breast cancer, it's probably safe. If she has a family history or she has the risk factors for breast cancer, talk it over with somebody else. And also, this is not your only option. It is an option. I've mentioned 3 other options already. You also have type 1 collagen. You also have vitamin K. You also have vitamin D if you're deficient. So if you're in doubt about soy isoflavones, you don't have to do it. There's other options. You could also just do it without supplements at all. You could do it with just exercise and protein.
Yeah. Right. I have a question now. Now, obviously, we've spoke about how osteoporosis can be brought on from menopause, but can osteoporosis be brought on from, for example, an old sports injury, stuff like that?
No. Generally speaking, so it's not usually brought on from injuries. It's usually brought on from just weakening of bones. People say due to aging, but I don't really agree with that 100% because there are so many people who are elderly and have no osteoporosis. It's really due to the accumulation of bad habits over time. Time just amplifies bad habits. And the habits that have been amplified as a result of time that lead to osteoporosis are 1, a low protein diet, and 2, activity that is not impactful enough. And here's what I mean by that. Lots of women are surprised when they get osteoporosis because they think, I eat healthy and I exercise. But what does eating healthy mean? They are thinking to themselves, I eat a lot of vegetables. Vegetables are wonderful, but they don't help with bones. And what do they think by I'm active? They usually think either I do fitness classes or I go for a walk or I'll do something. But that's not impactful activity. Beneficial, yes. Impactful, no. Impact simply means how hard your feet hit the ground. Okay, the harder they hit the ground, the stronger, the greater the impact on your bone density. And so, if she is in an activity where she jumps all the time, she's unlikely to get osteoporosis. Going for a walk does not reduce osteoporosis. If she's playing basketball or volleyball or she's sprinting, not jogging but sprinting, she's unlikely to get osteoporosis. But how many women over 50 do those activities? They'll be much better off doing those activities than going for a walk. They're higher intensity and they're higher impact.
Yeah, well, there's a difference between going for a walk and, for example, going hiking, isn't there?
Cardiovascularly, yes. For your bones, no difference whatsoever. For your bones, neither one is sufficiently intense enough to increase their strength.
Yeah.
So, okay, so you just said the high impact things that we would need, being older, we probably wouldn't even be able to do them. So what can we replace those activities with?
Well, I'm not saying that you wouldn't be able to do. I'm saying that women over 50, generally speaking, don't gravitate to them. In other words, if a woman over 50 wants to play basketball, by all means, that's probably one of the most beneficial things she can do. If a woman over 50 wants to sprint, and I mean, if she hasn't sprinted in like 40 years, don't start there. but take a few months to work up to sprinting. If you have the potential to do it, but not necessarily the ability to do it, work towards realizing your potential. I'm not saying don't do it. I'm saying work up to doing it.
No, what I'm saying is, what can we use to replace it? I'm not jumping, okay?
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying. I'm looking out for myself in this as well. I'm not jumping. I'm not sprinting. So at the end of the day, you know, I dance. I do dances and I do step. You know what I'm saying? That could be something that's beneficial for me. So what I was asking you is, what could we replace those activities if we can't participate in jumping or sprinting? What other things could we do?
So jumping does have some unique benefits that no other form of exercise has. It's not cardiovascular activity, it's not strength activity, it's jumping. So it does have some unique benefits. If somebody is not able to jump, one thing I would recommend is figure out a way to progress to jumping. Now, that's not to say that I would have every one of my osteoporotic clients jumping right away. Many of them, absolutely not. In fact, for the first 3 to 9 months, none of my osteoporotic clients jump. That takes, again, like a progression of 3 to 9 months to work up to jumping. And even then there's progressions. But first, the stage 1 of jumping is jumping from the floor onto something, not from the floor back down to the floor, because the impact of that is too high for somebody with existing osteoporosis. Now, of course, if somebody has osteoarthritis in the knees, I also don't recommend jumping. But for my clients who have problems with their ankles, knees, or hips, jumping is certainly out. And so what could they do that still has the benefits of jumping without necessarily the impact of jumping? Well, jumping is a vertical force. So what they could replace it with is a horizontal force. And how would they do that? I have one of my clients, Darlene, in a video showing the exercise that I had her do. She would stand next to a wall with her side next to a wall, maybe about 6 to 9 inches away. And she would bump her hip gently into a wall for as many times as she can in 30 seconds. And then she would do that with the other hip. So that would create a horizontal force as opposed to a vertical force. With that, neither her knees nor her ankles are impacted, and she still gets literal impact into her hip. And I would start gently and over time increase the impact more and more and more.
Okay, so I recommend the people that I know that's over 50, bump the wall, y'all. The dance, the bump, do the bump, the wall. And then the other thing I would suggest, play the cha-cha slide, because you know he has you jumping about 500 times in that song.
There you go.
Yeah.
Recommendation.
So thank you. See, I'm learning how to help myself and maybe help others.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, again, jumping or hip bumps don't take a...
No.
Anything else, Andrea?
No, I just really appreciate everything that I'm learning to keep my bone density well, because again, I'm a woman, I'm over the age of 50. And, you know, the fact that I'm a Black woman is definitely nice to know that, hey, you know, we're less at risk. And so I feel like I've got my toolkit for osteoporosis warrioring. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Where can people find you if they need to get in touch?
They can go to my website, which is www.fitnesssolutionsplus.ca, or they can find me on Amazon. Just type in my name, at least just my first name, because my last name is difficult. Just type in Igor, Igor, and then space whatever condition you want help with: osteoporosis, high blood pressure, diabetes, etc.
Okay.
There you go. There you go.
We might have to have him come back and talk about one of those other subjects he just mentioned.
Yeah. And by the way, Andrea, I'm in the next 9 to 12 months, I'll be publishing a book on menopause.
Okay. I'm gonna be looking for it. We need to connect.
We'll bring you back for this.
Yeah.
Menopause. Yeah. Because men can experience menopause as well.
Yes.
Not really. Menopause is strictly a women's condition. There is something called andropause, although it is controversial. But menopause is a very sharp drop in estrogen levels. It's abrupt. It's measurable. Everybody knows it's there. Andropause, it's hard to measure. It's not abrupt. It's sudden. And there's a lot more complexity with when is somebody in andropause versus not. But there is zero controversy about when is somebody in menopause. If they're not getting periods, they're in menopause.
Right. Okay. Fair enough. Right. Who do we have next week? Dr. Lorraine Harris, Andrea.
Yay. We looking forward to it.
Talking about why we allow ourselves to get stressed.
Okay. That's something good to learn more about.
Yeah. Why we get angry.
I know I allow myself to get stressed a lot of times, and I have to say, girl,
in the
stop.
kitchen. In the kitchen.
It's like, stop it. But in the kitchen, that's our space,
That's our space. Absolutely. Well, my son started cooking now, so I'm like, get out.
Get out. Yes. Don't come in my kitchen. Let me dance, listen to music, and cook. That's right.
Exactly. So there you go. Right. Please share this. Thanks, Igor, for coming on. Don't be a stranger.
For having me. This was a blast.
Anytime,
yes, you'll be back.
See you later.
Right.
Later.